Hey everyone, this is Angel. It's been a while since I've made a video. I went ahead and stopped working with junk journals for a little while and switched my attention to different things. I wanted to learn how to paint and watercolor and taught myself how to knit, and then I wanted to learn how to do beading. I wanted to make jewelry, I wanted to do simple things, but then I also wanted to expand my knowledge and try, like bead embroidery and kind of designing things, because I have no self-confidence and I have low self-esteem. I taught myself I can't do it. I'm not a designer. I can only follow patterns. And I wanted to push myself out of that thought pattern and just to see what I can do. My first step was to start, collecting beads. I tried to get them while they were on sale and just buy, because the more beads you have, the more, options you have. I'm going to be looking for the right words. It's been a while since I've had a talk on video. Now this was the first, you can call it a pendant or a piece. I call it a wall hanging because this is huge. I would never wear it. I didn't make it with plans on selling it. I just wanted to see what I can do, where it would take me. And this is the little wall hanger, or if you have a really little neck. This is a bead woven pattern by Erin Simonetti. So I went ahead and bought a little cheap beading, oops, here we go, a loom. I've got the camera so close I don't want to knock it, but just went ahead and bought that. Start with the inexpensive stuff, move up to the more expensive stuff if you find that's something you like. But I just wanted to start somewhere. So Pinterest has helped me so much. Just getting different ideas of what you can do. Before, when I went ahead and looked at my beads and I'm like, well, what do I do with them? How can I arrange them so that they're in a pretty pattern? So I looked at Pinterest. If you go to my Pinterest page and go under beading projects, you'll see thousands, thousands of images from, the earrings, necklaces, brooches, pendants, anything, just so that I could learn, what they put together, how they arrange things, what different options I have, sticking flowers, sticking beads on flowers. It is just, you can go down the rabbit hole and be lost, but it will give you so many ideas on how to do it. If you want to learn the actual beading, like peyote stitch, because you use peyote stitch to bezel and keep the cabochons, attached to the pellon, the foundation. Jill Wiseman, she has some excellent videos, and those are the videos that I followed at first. And then once you start looking at that, you'll see a bunch of other people that have showed you how to do maybe the edging, different stitches, and so many other different designs. But for the techniques of actually bead weaving, peyote stitch, that you use a lot when you're doing these, that will be my first step to get to learn things. My next thing, I guess I want to talk about is how I plan. I had this pattern, so I made it, and then I wanted to see, well, what can I do with it? That in itself wasn't enough to go on a wall. It wasn't done, finished. I wanted to add more. So I sat down with my bead stash, and let me show you I keep my beads, I don't want to move the phone away, but I just keep them in these cheap little plastic containers. But for me, I need to see what I have in order to pick out, in order to put things together. So I just have everything sorted. These are just a few of the containers, miscellaneous stuff. I've used these in my recent one. So that's the way I do it. That's how I store, so that I can quickly grab. I had to take things out of the boxes, out of the bags, in order to see everything. I guess I'm a visual person. And so then I just laid this down on a tray. This is just a cookie tray, for baking, and a little bead cloth. And I would lay it down, and I would just see what I have. And I'm like, okay, so I've got red. Let's pull out some red beads. So I had these cute little flower cabochons. I was like, well, we've got green. Pull out some green. I knew I wanted to use a big stone. And with black, black matches everything. Plus it's got a little bit of black there. So I just start laying down. And I'll go ahead and work on one thing at a time. I don't think past. I don't start thinking about what I'm going to do with all of this. I built up around the piece with those colors, introduced some new colors that weren't even in the design, because you're not limited to just what is in, your focal piece. Then I start with this. I go ahead and bezel it in. And then I'll go, okay, well, let's see. I wanted this here. It's like, okay, I can add that there now. Because sometimes once you put things down, it doesn't always look right afterwards with what you had planned. I might have had something else planned. I was like, oh, okay, now all of a sudden, they don't look as good. So I moved those back to the side. You just bring out as much as you can so you have as much options in sight. And then you can kind of like, okay, well, that's not working now, and set it aside. And you just slowly start building, It would be like, okay, I got these done. Well, now I need to go ahead and fill in some spaces. So I wanted to add flowers. And then you're cutting it out, because it's like, okay, that's the size I wanted. And then you're adding, your edging. And you're adding your backing. So that was the process for that one. And it's all basically the same. This piece, I loved these Lady Cabochons. Am I in camera? Yeah. I love these Lady Cabochons, and I wanted to look at it, to see it. I didn't want it just hanging in a jewelry box. I knew I was going to sell it. I wanted to be able to have it and see it. So the first thing I do is I start pulling out colors of, beads, different shapes. And that was the fun thing, just finding different shapes and not all the same type of bead. When I'm shaking, I'm sorry, this is cameras attached to one of those little utility tables. So I had an idea. I went ahead and I think I saw these, and I was like, ooh. And I saw the green. I was like, ooh. Okay, let's go ahead and lay those out. And then you just start with the cab. Let's start decorating around the cab and then see where it goes from there. So I went ahead and bezeled it. I wanted to bring out some orange. I wanted to bring out some green. And it's got tan, so I put in some tan. And then the next row, well, I wanted something cool. I wanted to bring out the checker, so I went ahead and added some checker. I call it checker, black and white tiles. And these are just little cubes, actually, squares. And then I was like, well, I don't want to go all the way around. Everybody does that. Let's do something different. Let's do half and half. So I had these beads in my stash. And they're, half one color, half another color. And it's not quite matching, but you don't have to. I've already done the matchy with these colors. So it's complementary, I guess you would call it. And, I would lay them out, loosely. It's like, yeah, okay, stand back, look at it. okay, I don't hate it. Let's add them. And then the next round would be, I went ahead and put in some of this, what do you call this, chain, rhinestone chain. And that would give it some shine, some glitter, and that's just another way to add, accents to it. And then I would start down here. Okay, let's space this around, and let's space this. Went ahead and did my bezels, and the shiny, I love shiny beads. So it just makes it look pretty and shine on the wall. These were little bitty cabochons. They're not even all the same size, but it was just a mixed bag. But it still works. You're not going for perfection. You're not going for symmetry all the time. Although what I do is pretty symmetrical. That's just my OCD. So I went ahead and I wanted to tie in the orange from up here to down here. So I went ahead and topped these with the orange. I went ahead and brought in some orange on these beads. And these little barrel beads, you top them off. And you'll see how people use beads differently once you start checking out Pinterest and looking at everybody else's creations. Like this is just a round bead. Put a, is this like a 6/0 bead or something on top of it. It gives it lift so that everything is just not flat, depth, and, everything. It's just fun. Don't stop and think too much about, is it going to look right? Is this perfect? You're supposed to want to just have fun and enjoy it. Set things down, step away. I had these blue tile I wanted to incorporate, so I went in and put them there. Now I went in and brought the blue color down here just to tie into that. I'm just sitting on the floor. What color would match? I brought the green around, and that tied in with all of that. Green. I had flowers that I wanted to add to it, and these were different shapes of flowers. And I had these leaves, so I had to figure out, okay, well, how do I attach them? You just kind of beat up and beat down, beat up, beat down, and cover up the white space, of the background. I put in a bunch of whole little, black and white beads here, and that tied into the black and white here. Let's see, what else did I do? Yeah, and I've got these little bitty white beads with the little 15/0 beads. Yeah, there you go. As decoration there around that. These ideas just start popping in your head. What can I do? I went ahead and laid those down first, and then I laid this big bead on top of it. And it's just endless. The possibilities are endless. Red beads here, just to kind of tie it all in, and adding the black. There's a lot of black. When I went ahead and cut it to add the backing, I was like, well, I really love this. I love the tiles on the kitchen floors that look like that. I loved it here. So let's just tie it all in together and add that way. So this has a lot of experimenting on it, a lot of different techniques, just shoving beads where you can. You come up, you add 3 beads, and you go back down, and it's covered up the space. There's no real set how many you have to do. You just add to it, and you kind of get an idea, and you learn as you go. It's like, okay, 4 beads made it go way wonky. Let's do 3, let's do 4, let's do 5. Whatever you need to do, and it can be however you like it. I took process pictures, and it's like, okay, you just started with this and a white background, and it looks so naked. You just go and let your imagination run wild. I had these flowers, and you could add different flowers inside the flowers. Then I wanted some stringy things, so I just added a whole bunch of beads, skipped the first bead, went back down. I was like, okay, let's just keep doing that until, I have enough to fill up that space and be noticeable. And I probably don't have the same amount here as there, and that was okay. It might not take it. Everything's going to be a little different. I try my best not to be so critical of myself. And here, long stamens, so I put 2 little cylinder beads instead of one. You can do whatever you like. Okay, so this is the one that I'm working on now. I started with this cabochon. It was too big for an earring. So I said, okay, I'll make a pendant. And I call them, like I said, pendant, things that I'm never going to wear, but I want to hang on the wall. And I sit by the wall and I can look at it, and it's just, colors make me happy. It make me smile. So what I did was, okay, look what I had. I wanted to use, another big stone cabochon. And I had some of these. I knew, well, black kind of matches with everything, right? So I glue this down. I start bezeling around it with the orange and the gold to bring, to match out the colors in the cabochon. But I didn't want it to look, Halloween. I wanted more colors than that. I didn't want just black and orange. So I brought in green. So I had these beads. It's like, okay, again, we don't have to go all the way around. Let's use a variety of beads. So I did, almost a half a circle. I didn't want to do a whole circle because, hey, that's too cookie cutter, right? Let's be different. Almost half a circle. And I had these Tyler beads, that they have the 2 holes in them, laid them down. I had these string of beads. I was like, let's go ahead and use those. And then again, I put in some sparkly and then went around it. And I kind of feel like, okay, that captured that part of it. Now let's focus on something else. What else do I want to do with this? I want to bring the eye down. So I went ahead and glued this down, and I went ahead and decided how I wanted to bezel it. Normally, I think I would have used colors like I did here that matched the stone, but I also wanted it to, bring out the gold from here and just to be a little different. So I went ahead and went with a different color. I don't even know what color that is, but it was like an AB kind of a color on the inside, and then I used gold. Then I used gold here, and I used the black. And, the black would bring out that. And I thought it just kind of highlighted it pretty cool. I had these little cabochons. I was like, well, I wanted kind of a fan idea. I had things laid out. I was going to do these. Like I said, I do lay things down. I bring things out. And I was going to do these. And I was going to have these in different places. And once you get something sewed down, it's like, well, what else can I do? Let's be a little different. I've already used these beads. So I was going to use something different. How about these beads? So then I was like, well, that would be too much orange. And I had these big beads. So I was like, well, let's use those. And I could still use these, put them on point. Whoops, you're the wrong one. Put them on point, see if I can squeeze them in there. And that, to me, would bring the orange down, would bring the eyes down. And I thought, okay, that'll still work. I had these white beads here, and I thought for a minute, maybe I can use those. They kind of look okay, but I don't know if that's color I was going for, if that would change the theme too much. I could do 1 and 1 because I really like both of them now. And like I said, you don't have to be symmetrical. So that's still a thought. I might still, think about that. Just see how I feel about it. So on these beads, let's go ahead and put those aside. These beads, they're black, but they also have some purple in them. So I thought, well, why not go ahead and put some lilac. I keep wanting to call it purple, but it's like a lilac, very light, delicate beads. And I went ahead and alternated the black and the lilac. I had the lilac on top, and it was just like, whoa, it's too bright. It took away from the whole design. So I was like, okay, let's go back and let's put some black up there. You still have it, you can still see it, it's still bright and shiny, makes it look pretty, but it's not so bold. And so I sew things up, I take it away. I sew things up, I take it apart. That's just part of it. What I think might work doesn't work. I do try to lay it around, sprinkle around, but sometimes you really don't see it until you actually sew it on and then get the feel. You stand back and you look at it and it's like, no, I'm not feeling that. Let's change it. It's just thread. I usually can use it. I try my best not to ruin it when I'm, pulling the beads back out. So you're supposed to have fun, and that's how I look at it. It's an adventure. Let's see what I can do. Now these had 2 holes in them, and since it is that, what do you call that, raised, so I didn't want to just glue it, so I went ahead and sewed them in place. And then I decided, well, let's see, what colors do I want to use to bezel them. And the bezeling wasn't going to hold them like these because I've already attached them pretty securely with the thread. And it's got a design on top, so I didn't want to cinch it like you do here, like a normal bezel would be. So I just wanted to decorate it. So I've got, some gold that ties in, and I've got some green that ties in. And on this, normally I just use the Pellon, the white Pellon. I'd seen somebody do some beading and their space was a color and they didn't have to fill in all the beads, to cover, all the white space like I do here, squeezing things to hide the background. So I thought, well, let me try that. I apologize, I keep bumping this camera. So this is some wool felt, and I just went ahead and glued it along the edges to the piece of Pellon. You don't want to put glue here because then you're trying to get your needle through that glue, so you just want to glue around the edges. But I think not having that white background and having this green background, I find myself wanting to match everything to the green instead of matching to the beads. So I don't think I will do this anymore unless my plan is to leave that space open and you have that green. But I like having beads. I like seeing all the pretty shiny beads cover everything up. So I think from now on I will stick with just the white background, and that way it won't confuse my brain so much on what's matching and what I need to match to. So I got these done, I got this done. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up as far as, doing the peyote stitch around it. I've got my 2 colors here, but it was getting late last night. Then my next step is going to be, deciding whether I want these on both sides, whether I want it on one side. And what I will do is just lay them here. And then I'll walk away. I'll go eat dinner. I'll go do, watch some TV. I'll do whatever. Or even just, walk to the kitchen. Come back. Just to give my eyes a break from what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing. And I'll be able to decide better what I like. Now these I'm going to have to glue on. I don't know if I have a room to, bezel them, because they're like touching. So I got to be real careful with that. These have holes. I can sew them in place plus glue them. And I can leave them like that. I don't need to bezel up. And that's another thing to think about. Do I need to do a peyote around them? These are going to be secure, so I don't need to bezel them, to hold them in place, to add decoration to it. My decoration can come from just adding beads. I've got these bead caps, and that's all they are, just a regular old bead cap. And as soon as I find one, I've got these little glass flowers. And this was one of the first designs that I was just going to put these here instead of these beads. But then, like I said, as you start doing things, you start thinking, what else can I add to it to improve it, to make it more fun. So I might still use these. You know, I have room. I can still place them somewhere. So that's going to come in next, though. You know, like I said, I try to just focus on one thing at a time. I've got this to do, and then I'll decide how I want to do these. I wish I had planned this better, because you really can't fit. I would need 2 spaces, you know, of the delicate beads to, unless I somehow skip one. And then I've got the gold beads that I use up here that I can go ahead and tack them down. So that's an option. That's what I'm going to be thinking about when I do my next step. And then I'll go ahead and come back and we'll see how we like things, and I'll show you the next step. Whoops, that one's gone forever. Tiddlywinks, it just shoots out. So that, so far as my process, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm thinking about it. I hope it helps. I hope it, I want to encourage you to just try. Don't let that negative Nancy in your head telling you that you can't do it. You know, you have to be born designer. And it's like, I'm not a born designer. I'm just laying things down one at a time, getting ideas of what you can do with beads, how you can bead them up, learning the techniques, and then doing things. You know, this one was like so much fun. It's like the kitchen sink full of beads. And it makes it unique, it makes it you, and it makes it fun. And that's what I want to have. I want to have fun. I want to occupy my free time with doing something. And it's such a reward seeing it hanging on the wall, knowing that I finished it. And the pretty colors are making me smile. It's like springtime all year round in my house. So go ahead and see what you can do. And we will be back with the next segment, next step. Okay? Bye-bye.